Okie dokie. Well, look, let's kick off first with the Times. What do you think, Francis?
Well, the Times leads with child abuse gangs fed by political correctness, and this is Rishi Sunak. Will say today that the grooming gangs in Rotherham and all across the north and also parts of the south and the west were the reason they're allowed to proliferate is because people didn't want to call them out, people didn't want to report them because they were scared of appearing racist.
But you don't have that fear, do you?
No, I don't have that fear, mate, which is why I have that voice and I'm here. But people have also said that Suella Braverman in particular is weaponising this issue, making it all about race, because sex offenders come from all parts of our culture.
Yeah, I mean, it really has kicked off today. I don't know if you were still on the flight when you got off, Catherine, but it's been kicking off on Twitter, and that's like the worst kind of Twitter storm. And it's, basically accusing her of essentially, dog whistling and racism and whatnot. What about all the white people who are also pedos and whatnot? But
that's enough about the BBC, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. And now it seems like Rishi Sunak is doubling down on this. But do you think that they have a case or not in terms of accusing her of dog whistling?
I mean, I think if anybody's covering up any type of sexual abuse of children, it might as well be explored.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that would be my thought as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. The point is, let's deal with what is obviously an utterly heinous crime and whatever it takes to do that and wherever that goes.
Of course. And this is a problem, is when you tackle a crime such as this one and you speak honestly and candidly about it, then invariably people are going to get on board and they're going to say things, oh, you're making this about race, you're making this about race because you're a racist. But the reality is, unless you talk about it in a frank, open and honest manner, then we are never going to be able to solve this, and we're never going to protect the next generations of children from ensuring that this doesn't happen to them. Whereas if we sweep it under the carpet, then all that will happen is that it will continue to be perpetuated in the dark.
Yeah, well, it's... and then you had Labour here saying the package was hopelessly inadequate, belated and narrow. And you sort of feel like, look, traditionally I've been a Labour supporter, apart from a few ups and downs in recent years. But it's a little bit like, well, guys, come on, Rotherham, these were Labour councils, arguably, that led to this, perpetuated to decades of allowing these some grooming gangs. Well, no, when I say grooming gangs, I mean not that grooming gangs all happen to be Asian, but the percentage of those particular grooming gangs were. And then, of course, people start going, well, look at this report here, and it says that the grooming gangs are majority white. Well, of course, we live in a majority white country. But Lisa Nandy, who I voted for to be the Labour leader, she seems to sort of make a lot of sense, don't you think, with what she says here about how she does call it out, and she says that there are particular issues within the Kurdish and the Pakistani gangs in parts of the country, but we also need to look at the bigger picture as well.
Well, of course, and I do think Lisa is right on this particular issue. The problem is that this has been such a taboo subject for so long and has been happening for around about 30 years that is it any surprise that people want to talk about it when the reality is people have been too scared to for a long old time. And as a result of that, you can't blame people for wanting to discuss this subject in the open now. And I don't think it's good enough to say, look, yes, but what about this? Because the reality is this needs to be talked about, and we need to ensure that it needs to be stamped out and that no young person is ever put through these heinous crimes again.
Absolutely. And just one final thing is just in terms of, I mean, what Suella Braverman was saying was, the point was that political correctness had allowed these crimes to continue, and also had allowed, like, for example, the bomber in Manchester to not be. So it's up to the authorities to sort of get over themselves, I guess, this fear that's been sort of become part of these institutions. They have to do their job and get over it, wherever that takes them.
Yeah, and they need to be brave. And look, this is a thing about being a leader. This is a thing about being a politician. It means that you're going to be disliked. It means that people are going to say nasty things about you. It means that sometimes people are going to misrepresent you. But here's the thing. You want to be in power. You want to be in charge. You want to be Home Secretary or whatever other title it may be. Then you've got to be prepared to take and accept that flak.
It sounds like it's just like being a GBNews presenter, but without any power.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
what you're saying then? Catherine, what are you
Well, I guess it's just, I don't know if you can tell from my accent, but I'm not from here. So I come
You're
from...
Welsh?
Yeah, exactly. So I come from a place where Law & Order Special Victims Unit has had like 30 seasons. So I feel like this has been in conversation where I come from for a very long time. So I'm learning just through this dialogue, is it just something that politically is, from what you said, people have been afraid to bring to the forefront?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that alarming, so I think whatever, like you said earlier, whatever you have to do to kind of
Deal with it, yeah.
start dealing with it.